All right, welcome to the next episode of Voice AI podcast, where we discuss the future of voice AI. Today, I'm super excited to host Will Bodewes, CEO at Phonely.ai. Will, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, really quick about Phonely. So Phonely is a 2023 startup based in the San Francisco Bay Area that builds AI voice agents capable of answering business phone calls naturally like a human. Its system handles FAQs, routing, scheduling, and integrates with CRMs and other business tools. The company focuses on real-time, human-like voice interactions for businesses. How does it sound like as an intro? This is ChatGPT as always.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
What were
Uh, yeah, I think it's like the quick and dirty overview.
anything you want to mention other than that?
I mean, I think if you wanted to add in, like, we partner with companies like Grok to provide some of the lowest latency voice interactions in the market. That might be one interesting blip to add in there. Yeah.
I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So we met at VapiCon. I know our companies are working together, obviously, right? But we first met at VapiCon. What are your impressions at VapiCon? I think it was like a pretty big gathering there. Anything that you learned? Anything new you learned? More energy? Like, what's your impression?
Yeah, I think it's a really cool just to be part of that industry and part of that space, because like, it's so exciting to see so many people gathered around one concept that when we started working on it, like when I started working on voice AI, I'm sure you probably were before me, but there was not very many people that were working on voice AI. Like, I met Jordan, the CEO of Vappy, in a hot tub, and we were his fourth customer way back in the day before we kind of went on our own and built our own thing. And so, it's just very cool to see, like, now there's like a whole conference, there's dedication, there's developers, there's all these different things being built around something that was just like nobody had talked about or nobody had heard about 2.5 years ago when we started working on it. So I think that to just the more excitement that we can get about the space and the kind of attention that voice AI is drawing with all these really cool new startups emerging, I think it's just exciting. It's awesome. Like, it's great to be part of that type of a space.
Yeah, it seems like a movement. It's like a creation of a new industry, right? And like one of my takeaways is that, like, oh my God, there are so many young people working on this, and they're clearly like they're building the future, right? This future industry. So yeah, very cool. So we like there are obviously many companies now doing like phone support, AI based phone support. Like, how do you look at the landscape of who is like, how do you differentiate between these different companies, and what do you see working and not working in the space?
Yeah. I think that there's, you know, like I said, when we started, there was not very many people on it, and now it's like everybody and their mother is working on building a voice agent, which I think for the most part is very exciting. Like, it's very, very cool that so many people are excited about building on a new technology and a new medium. When it comes to our company, we really think of ourselves as a few areas. So one, we've just been working on it for so long that we've just got like reliability rock solid with all of our customers in terms of like our scaling, our architecture, and all that stuff. And then the other thing is just with what we're vision, like what the vision is for the product and the platform that we do is, a lot of times it's just like working with BPOs to give them like the most comprehensive solution that solves the phone call problem. Like, oh, we've always just been focused on voice. We've always been focused on the phone call. And so when a business, like a BPO or a contact center, a call center, or whatever, they want to sign up for something, and you don't want to spend like months and months coding. You don't want to spend months and months prompt engineering. We just focused on like going really deep into that spot, and especially like on the LLM side, to produce repeatable human-like voices, kind of at scale without having to buy a bunch of tools in order to support it. And so when we sell to customers and when we give them something, we basically can say your time to value with us is going to be much, much faster than if you were to use another company or build it yourself in house, because we're a team of PhD AI researchers. We know this stuff like the back of our hand. We were building foundational models before this, and so we really understand how to make these models work. We have 100% function calling accuracy when it comes to when we deploy a voice agent at scale. So we don't we don't mess up anything like that. So really, what do you get with us? It's like you get experience, you get a process, and then a series of systems that just kind of work.
So, like in a typical, let's say BPO, I understand like it really depends on the use case and industry and everything. But how long is a typical deployment? Like the BPO comes to you and says, like, I have this use case, I want to automate this use case. Like, is that a month long? Is it like 6 month long project? Like, what's the typical that you have seen so far?
Yeah, like it really depends on the type of project and what they're looking to do. Like we've got a pretty nailed down process of like what we need to in order to make these like voice agents, kind of go live. And so a lot of times it's just like waiting on the customer. Realistically, it's saying like, okay, well, what does the customer want? Do they know what they want? And then you know, how can we kind of get them live as quickly and efficiently as possible? Because when you break down like voice AI into like a few components, which is how we do it, it's like there's what the agent needs to say, which is the questions it needs to ask, what the agent needs to know, which is the RAG, the material, the context that it needs, and then what the agent needs to do, which are the integrations that it has. Now, usually, what they wanted to know and what they wanted to say are pretty easy parts, and then the thing that takes a long time is building the integration. So we've pushed a lot into saying like how can we make building integrations as easy as possible, but it's still like an ultimately just going to be plumbing. Like it's just gonna there's not a solution to do it without just building the integration out and just kind of making it work.
Yeah, and do you have these folks that are called like forward deployed engineers that go in and sit with the customer, understand their workflows, and then like do this custom work with them? Is that how you guys at the end
We
like do these integrations?
Yeah, we do some of that. So we do have a few forward deployed engineers that are working on this. The other area that we work with is especially in the BPOs, like we have a training program where if a BPO, what they have is they have a lot of people, and these people have technical capabilities that they're really good at. And so what we can do is we can train them up onto how to use our product, just basically put in the playbook that we've developed into their system and say, okay, here's what you want to do, here's how you're going to do it, here's how you're going to do QA, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that there's a lot that people don't realize to getting a voice agent live. Like that's a whole probably podcast in itself. It's like how do you get a voice agent like actually live? Um, but yeah, there's a lot that we just like learned on how to deal with people basically in that process.
It's good. Yeah, well, like, how about like the challenges? Like you have seen pretty much like every challenge out there, like be it a technical challenge, or like deployment challenges. Like, how would you like compare what was happening, let's say last year, compared to today, right? From your platform perspective, like what are the basically the main challenges you face? And I'm sure like you guys face so many challenges. Everyone faces so many challenges, right? Like we have heard a lot about that at Vapicon, but I'm interested in your opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I will say like we'll commend you guys and your company. Like what these problems that you guys are solving for the voice AI space are some of the bigger and the last problems left. I won't say the last, there will always be problems to solve, but some of at least the problems that I feel like that are right on the horizon, which is getting really good quality transcripts. And that's the bane of the existence in voice AI, because if somebody says their name is John and the AI thinks their name is Josh and it says, "Hey Josh," like it just the experience around that is just such a dead giveaway that you're talking with an AI and not a person. That anything that we can do to like make sure that we clean up and we remove background noise, we remove background TVs, like anything that we can do to get rid of all that stuff and just have the raw, high quality text of what the user says. I think that that's one of the fundamental last problems to be solved in terms of if we had 100% transcription accuracy, voice AI would be I think years in advance of where it is right now, because that's one of the problems that we face all the time.
Yeah, that resonates so well with my impression. Actually, I just sent a newsletter uh, yesterday with my takeaways from Vapicon, right?
Sure.
And that was my one of my points, and because I didn't realize this before, like, we are not building, like, agentic systems at Crisp, today, but we do build, like, voice translation system, like, a real-time voice translation between humans. And so, like, we face, like, very similar problems, as in, the voice agents, right? Which again, like, if I were to classify, I mean, transcription is where things fail, and, like, being able to it's not even like Joan Josh, like, because in customer service, like, that might be okay, like, there are, of course, use cases where it's definitely not okay. But it's like, if you're not able to capture numbers, emails, address properly in customer service scenarios, like, there is no way this transaction is gonna work. So I 100% agree that if we are able to solve this last mile transcription problem, I think that's what holds the industry back, right? And so, do you guys do anything in that regard, or you're just waiting for the model providers to solve it?
Yeah, I mean, we do stuff around, you know, we do stuff within our control, right? So we work on like a lot of like VAD stuff, a lot of like, sometimes as well. Keep in mind that sometimes transcription issues are not even the transcribers themselves. They're the fact that like you get a hit with a bunch of load and then your pipeline is congested and like it missed a word or something like that, right? So we we work on solving all those problems first. And then when it comes down to like raw transcripts, what we do is we spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, people are not 100% accurate over the phone anyways. So if it's not like, if transcription models are just not going to be there yet, what can we do from a customer experience side so that it feels and it responds like a person? So can we look at the transcription confidence of the words that are being said and say, oh, this is a key name, this is a name, I need to, my transcription confidence is low, I might want to ask them to spell it out, I want to react like a person. Like there's really small nuances like that that do end up making a big difference when like our whole focus is saying like, okay, how do we get to 100% reliability and accuracy with it. So we haven't started training our own transcriber models. Um, I don't know that we will in the near future, transparently, but it's definitely a big problem. And if somebody doesn't solve it soon enough, you bet your ass that we'll come out and we'll drop a model at some point.
Yeah, yeah, someone needs to solve it because there's a whole industry waiting for it, right? I heard these ideas that, oh, maybe, like, whenever user needs to, or the customer needs to say, like, a phone number or email address, we can detect that and we can send them a link, like, with a so that it's such a bad experience. But, like, if have you tried things like those, or, like, you just hate
We've
the
thought about that stuff. I mean, ultimately, yeah, like we've thought about it, but it doesn't feel like the right way to solve the, like, if we're just like throw out the kind of like small wins you get from customers and just like talk about the industry problems and say like, okay, what's the right solution? Like that's not the right solution. Like in the future, it should be able to pick up the name and the email. And we understand that even in the 100% transcription case, it's not going to be able to stand some people sometimes. So it's like, how do we have our models react more like people? So we're very much indexed on the side of saying like we're building and training and fine tuning our LLMs, because we think that as like that's the last like problem to be solved is to get the LLMs to talk more like people, because the voices are going to get better, transcription models are going to get better, but I think that the LLM piece is the key interaction that needs to have a certain level of intelligence, a certain level of accuracy, but also the conversational style, the latency, that is expected from human conversation.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you're focused a lot on the latency, and so you're using, I think, Grok, as the LLM provider, or, like, as the data center or technology, right? Uh, how you call them? Cloud provider, I guess, at this stage. Can you talk about that? Like, how is it, like, just the speed of token generation? How does it impact the overall experience?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So
compared to other, like, providers, right? Like, what I have seen.
yeah, for sure. So we've done a lot of work in this. You might have seen this, like we were featured in Venture Beat for this. We kind of went viral for like our partnership with Grok and our accuracy levels that we were hitting, maybe 3 6 months ago. But basically, what we what we kind of like saw as a problem, and to be clear, like we do have like we support multiple different models in our platform, so you don't have to just like use one of those. But where we think the right way to do it is, OpenAI and all of these other providers, they are building on a different type of chipset that has inherent speed limitations. And if you were to like take a pie graph and you were to say like, where does the latency come from in conversation? The latency comes from the LLM mostly, right? Like transcribers, some speech models, some, but LLM is almost always kind of the bottleneck. And what we what we kind of think is that if we can get a good LLM that is really conversational and really good at logic, and we can kind of either decouple those and get a system in place that's able to respond in milliseconds and talk like a person, we can deal with some of these problems that are existing in voice, which is like hallucinations or the transcription issues on that. Like the transcription issues can kind of be solved by having the model talk better. So we went and started working with Grok to just basically say, hey, how can we make this happen? And that's what we've been building towards. I think there's still like we're still like doing research on this and trying to figure out like the absolute best way to push it forward. But I think we're getting a lot closer than at least people that aren't paying attention to it at all. And I think that we're able to push out stuff that's like ahead of OpenAI in a few of our benchmarks, which is cool.
And do you see like direct correlation between like latency gains and like satisfaction?
Yeah. So latency, and then conversational accuracy. Conversational accuracy is a hard thing to measure, right? Like we have a whole QA team that just like listens to calls every single day, and then they're like, this. They detected it was not a human. Like that's our benchmark. Is like, did they detect it wasn't a human? Why did they detect it wasn't a human? What can we do to solve that? And we just kind of like work off that sheet and say like, okay, this is a problem, let's solve it. This is a problem, let's solve it.
Interesting. Very cool. Like a really cool question, Will, on this debate on speech-to-speech models and cascading. Well, like from what I understand, you guys do cascading, obviously. But is there any like deployment of speech-to-speech in like real life production that you're aware of?
I I've talked to like our office is next to Coval, the evaluation platform. Talked to other evaluation providers. I haven't heard of anybody that's really successfully deployed a voice to voice model in production. I'm sure that they exist out there, and I think that if I had to guess, where they probably work well is anywhere where it's like therapy type of stuff, right? Where it's really important to have good conversation. Where we operate is on the business level and the intelligence level. So we're all about like what can the AI actually do. And so speech to speech models, the problem is they make them so fast that they have to train like a very lightweight model to be able to talk like a person. And they don't have the level of business intelligence that you need to execute function calling accuracy at the reliability that our customers need it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I like more like B2C or like just where the empathy and emotional sort of engagement is important, I guess, these two.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And well, let's talk about the future, right? So like can you like if you can share like what use cases work best today in terms of given the technology limitations, where which use cases is voice AI most successfully from your perspective, but also where are we going right in the next year, 2 years from your perspective?
Yeah. So I think we're seeing a lot of uptake and a lot of success in a few areas. Obviously, there's customer support is one, especially when you have a very defined set of questions that you need to answer from. That's a pretty good one. The other areas that we're getting a lot of uptick right now is like lead qualification and appointment scheduling. The reason why I think we're doing well on that is we've rolled out like an A/B testing feature in our platform, and they have very defined outcomes. So when you can really clearly define the outcome that you're trying to get to, if that's an appointment schedule, then and you have metrics on your existing call center, we can basically almost guarantee that if you give us like a little bit of time to optimize and iterate, we can hit your metrics of your call center at about like 50 to 70% less of a cost. So those areas are picking up really quick because they're saying like, okay, well, here's a small sample of our calls. If you can hit our metrics, then we will turn you on full scale because it saves a bunch of money. So those are areas that we're seeing is like really easy for us to kind of like jump in there. I think when things get harder is when you have multiple stakeholders involved. So if it's like, I call in, I need to call John, I need to call Sally, or you have legacy systems, like where you're having a integrate with something that is not on the cloud. It doesn't have API docs. Those are hard.
Very cool. And then, so what's the expectation now for the next 2 years? 1 year and then like 2 years.
Yeah, good question.
What's top of mind, like from Phonely perspective?
Right. Well, I think where the industry is going is more and more people are going to continue to adopt voice AI. I think you're going to see enterprises slowly adopt it over the next 2 or 3 years. I think part of their hesitation comes from the experiences that they may hear of like voice AI applications hallucinating or doing things wrong, and that will create some fear of adoption in the market. But ultimately, what's going to happen is those problems are going to become solved. And people are going to start adopting quicker and quicker on that. So I would expect a rollout in the enterprise over the next 3 years, probably. For us, in terms of where we're focused on, we're just continuing to work on like the most relevant problems we see in voice, which is like solving the plumbing problem. So how do you make it easy and quick to integrate? We're building like cursor style application inside of our platform, because now that we've built this complicated platform, it's like people don't always understand how to use it. So how do you make building agents really really easy and integrating it at speed? And then the other things that we're working on solving is like we're just kind of nerds, and so just working on like solving the nitty gritty language model problems. I believe that the cascading model is going to be around for a while, and at some point you're not going to see a differentiation between cascading versus voice to voice. And the reason I kind of firmly believe that is if you look at what I believe to be the best voice demo we've seen on the market, which is a Sesame, that is not a voice to voice model, right? It uses like audio tokens to inform it, but it still has an LLM in the middle. And so I think that we're going to see some sort of like exciting things around that, even like Ultravox and other stuff like that coming in.
Very, very cool stuff. Well, Will, thanks so much for joining. I think it's extremely interesting to hear your insights. Again, like I think there is so much excitement around this industry, and we all are aware of the problems like transcription accuracy. Hopefully, they get results, and the industry just blows up. And yeah. Well, thanks a lot again for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited.